Greetings world. We are anonymous.
Greetings world, we are anonymous. Today we bring you a quick video on Nibiru or Planet X, and try to put it into context for you. There have been many theories as to what the great, fiery red dragon of Revelation verse 12 chapter 3-4 could be that casts a third of their stars of heaven to earth with its tail, but none so far have met all the criteria of its appearance. Is the following the description of the great fiery red dragon that is prophesied to follow the Revelation verse 12:1-2 sign we saw on September 23, 2017? There, same instrument God will use to fulfill Isaiah 24, Mark 13:24-25, Luke 21:26, Revelation 6:12-13, and Revelation 8. The same destroyer written of in Jeremiah 4-7 and 48-8. Greg Jenner, a well-known Planet X researcher, writes, the destroyer was a fact known to the scribes and priests of ancient Egypt. Data from the Kolbrin, as well as other ancient writers, give vital details about the destroyer's actual appearance. The head, a metalliferous body, is blood red and nearly as bright as the Sunday the head appears at times as a red crescent moon and is enwrapped within a dark cloud-like mantle. The tail is coiled and twisted like a serpent. The tail produces streamer coils appearing as dragon heads, arms, tails, manes and feet. The tail fallout produces audible, electrophonic crackling concussions within the atmosphere. The tail fallout rains down microscopic grains of red dust, causing bodies of water to turn blood red. Their bodies stellar cloud showers Earth with meteor-like hailstones. The bitterweed wormwood is the first plant to grow back on the surface after the flyby. The destroyer is not a typical, run-of-the-mill comet. It is a monstrous iron planet or brown dwarf with a tail that occasionally wanders through our solar system, causing havoc in its wake. It was known as Nibiru by the Sumerians, destroyer by the Egyptians and Hebrews, Phaeton by the Greeks, Typhon by Pliny, Frightener by the Celts. We shall know it as Planet X. Greg Jenner.
An illusion will be created so vast, so large that it escapes their perception. Those who see it will be thought of as insane. We will always stand above the relative field of their experience, for we know the secrets of the absolute. We will work together always, and we will remain bound by blood and secrecy. Death will come to he who speaks. We will keep their lifespans short and their minds weak while pretending to do the opposite. We will use our knowledge of science and technology in subtle ways so they will never see what is happening. We will use soft metals, aging accelerators and sedatives in food and water, also in the air. They will be blanketed by poisons everywhere they turn. The soft metals will cause them to lose their minds. We will promise to find a cure from our many fronts, yet we will feed them more poison. The poisons will be absorbed through their skin and mouths. They will destroy their minds and reproductive systems. For all this, their children will be born dead, and we will conceal this information. They will see our products being used in films, and will grow accustomed to them, and will never know their true effect. When they give birth, we will inject poisons into the blood of their children and convince them that it's for their health. We will start early on, when their minds are young. We will target their children with what children love most, sweet things. When their teeth decay, we will fill them with metals that will kill their minds and steal their future. When their ability to learn has been affected, we will create medicines that will make them sicker, and cause other diseases for which we will create yet more medicine. We will render them docile and weak, so they succumb to us and our power. They will grow depressed, slow and obese. When they come to us for help, we will give them more poison. We will focus their attention towards money and material goods, so that they may never connect with their inner self. We will distract them with fornication, external pleasures, and games, so that they may never be one with the oneness of all. Their minds will belong to us, and they will do as we say. If they refuse, we shall find ways to implement mind-altering technology into their lives. We will use fear as our weapon. We will establish their governments and establish opposites within. We will own both sides. We will always hide our objective, but carry out our plan. They will perform the labor for us, and we shall prosper from their toil. Our families will never mix with theirs. Our blood must be pure, always, for it is the way. We will keep them separated from the oneness by dogma and religion. We will control all aspects of their lives. We will make them kill each other when it suits us, and tell them what to think and how. We will guide them kindly and gently, letting them think they are guiding themselves. We will incite animosity between them through our factions. When a light shall shine among them, we shall extinguish it by ridicule or death, whichever suits us best. We will make them rip each other's hearts out and kill their own children. We will accomplish this because hate is our ally, anger is our friend. Hate will blind them totally, and never shall they see that from their conflicts we emerge as their rulers. They will be busy killing each other. They will bathe in their own blood and kill their neighbors for as long as we see fit. We will benefit greatly from this, for they will not see us, for they cannot see us. We will continue to prosper from their wars and their deaths. We shall repeat this over and over until our ultimate goal is accomplished. We will continue to make them live in fear and anger through images and sounds. We will use all the tools we have to accomplish this. The tools will be provided by their labor. We will make them hate themselves and their neighbors. This they must never know. We will always hide the divine truth from them, that we are all one. They must never know that color is an illusion. They must always think that they are not equal. Drop by drop, we will advance our goal. We will take over their land, resources and wealth to exercise total control over them. We will trick them into accepting laws that will steal the little freedom that they have. We will establish a money system that will imprison them forever, keeping them and their children in debt. When they shall band together, we shall accuse them of crimes and present a different story to the world. For we will own all the media. We will use our media to control the flow of information and their sentiments in our favor. When they shall rise up against us, we will crush them like insects, for they are less than that. They will be helpless to do anything, for they will have no weapons. They must never learn this truth, for they will turn against us. For their work, they will be rewarded with earthly things and great titles, but never will they become immortal and join us. Never will they receive the light and travel the stars. They will never reach the higher realms, for the killing of their own kind will prevent passage to the realm of enlightenment. This they will never know. The truth will be hidden in their face. It will be so close that they will not be able to focus on it until it's too late. Oh yes, so grand will the illusion of freedom be that they will never know that they are our slaves. When all is in place, the reality that we have created from them will own them. This reality will be their prison. They will live in self-delusion. When our goal is accomplished, a new era of domination will begin. Their minds will be bound by their beliefs, the beliefs we have established from time immemorial. But if ever they find out that they are equal, we shall perish. This they must never know. If they ever find out that together they can conquer us, they will take action. They must never ever find out what we have done, for if they do, we shall have no place to run, for it will be easy to see who we are once the veil has fallen. Our actions will have revealed who we are, and they will hunt us down, and no person shall give us shelter.
According to Zecharia Sitchin and other researchers, Nibiru is on a 3,600 years orbit around our Sun. Every time this giant planet, 5 times the size of Earth, enters our solar system, the gravity pull is very significant and affects all the planets in one way or their other. It comes in from the south, at an angle, and will at its closest pass between Mars and Jupiter, figure 3. This, however, is close enough to create great Earth changes. At their time this will happen, we will see what appear to be 2 suns in the sky, Nibiru being one of them and our natural sun the other. The evidence of this planet being a part of our solar system and now on its way to hit us again after 3,600 years is overwhelming. Not only did Sitchin do a good job with documenting this from his translations of the Sumerian tablets, but if we look back in history, we can see that major Earth changes happened approximately every 3,600 years. This, of course, coincides exactly with Nibiru's cycle. Also, like Sitchin and other scholars of today say, Nibiru is inhabited by an advanced species of giants, in their own language called THŞRS. See previous papers, who are to a large degree responsible for creating us, the modern Homo sapiens sapiens, the thinking man, from their own DNA. Now, how can a planet, which is supposedly many times larger than Earth, have intelligent life? That goes against everything we have learnt in school. Until recently, one of the things Sitchin was criticized for was just that, how an advanced race could have developed on such a huge planet, which upon everything else spent most of its existence out in deep space, far away from any heated star? We have evidence that this is the case, nevertheless, which gives us indications of how little we still know, and how rigid we are in our thinking. Cosmologists and astrophysicists have, until recently, stubbornly compared everything we don't know anything about with what we know. If we can't wrap our heads around it, it's not true. The thinking amongst scientists has been that if Earth is a perfect life-bearing planet, we need to look for other planets that are very similar to our own. If a planet is not of Earth size or revolve around its sun, which has to be similar in density to our own, within a certain distance, it's out of the question that it can contain higher life forms. Science is still quite rigid about this in general, but lately a new way of thinking has started to emerge. Here is an excerpt from an article at space.com from May 10, 2011, titled How Rogue Alien Planets Could Host Extraterrestrial Life. Interstellar planets might either be rogue planets that were originally born around a star and were later cast out by gravitational tugs of war, or sub-brown dwarfs that formed alone in interstellar space. Scientists have suggested that interstellar planets could support life under or even on their surfaces. It has been speculated that Earth-like rogue planets could have very thick atmosphere that keeps them relatively warm, or moons of giant rogue planets could experience tidal heating and have oceans beneath their icy surface, said planetary scientist Heikki van Hamarki at their Finnish Meteorological Institute in Helsinki. This is precisely the situation with Nibiru, when Sirius C turned nova, the STAR.A.Me. Survived by moving underground, living off their energy which was still emitting from Nibiru's core. Later on, when Alalu, allegedly their first of their kind who visited Earth around 500,000 years ago and found gold in huge quantities on our planet, could they start mining for it and use it as a conductor for their atmosphere so that life could be supported and sustained on Nibiru's surface as well? Soon enough the inhabitants could re-establish themselves on the only giant continent existing on the Red Planet. These beings, who later became known as the Annunaki, continued the mining for gold here on Earth and elsewhere in the solar system, and even in other star systems in the galaxy, as they were, and are, very capable of space travel. This presentation with Terrell from http://www.terrell03.com is one of the most scientific to date, with data, charts and information regarding the possibility of extreme Earth changes due to the close return of the infamous binary star, Nemesis, the star with many names, Nemesis, Wormwood, Planet X, Dark Star, Black Star, the Red Coquina, Winged Destroyer, etc.
This is Terrell from THº03.com. Today is September 21st, 2017. This is the Black Star Short Report, connected to Volume 38 of Terrell's 2017 newsletter.
Seismic event indicators say Earth has entered into the second Earth change uptick period for the 2017 Earth orbit cycle relative to the Black Star. Is positioned in Libra constellation relative to the Sun, and it is between Jupiter and Saturn, near Mars orbit path. People are writing and asking me. It's very near Mars orbit path, and it has already transitioned into the daytime sky. I'll show you where we are in the solar system. Black Star is right where it says Sun. That's the way this is positioned here. It's just about Mars orbit path, and it's towards the center left of Libra relative to the Sun. From our perspective, looking at the Black Star, then it would appear, if we could see the thing, to be between Libra and Virgo, just below the plane. So it would appear to be right in this location. From our perspective, it would appear to be right here. That's why we're going through the current Earth change uptick period. We passed between the Sun and Black Star in this position on May the 9th, and then we ran away from the Black Star at 66,000 miles per hour, lengthening that magnetic portal connection. Then we reached the bottom of the Earth change uptick period when that magnetic portal connection reached its longest length, and now we are moving through the headlights of the Black Star that's coming in this direction. So that instead of the magnetic portal connection lengthening and lengthening and lengthening like it did throughout the summer, it's now shortening based upon Black Star inbound orbital velocity. So it's not as dramatic as the uptick on previous orbit cycles during this period because, well, for multiple reasons. Jupiter's here siphoning electromagnetism from the Black Star. Black Star is positioned between Saturn and Jupiter, so most of the, or a large share of the electromagnetic potential from the Black Star is being sent to these largest planets in our solar system. So we're being spared the terrible consequences of our Earth core suddenly heating up, but we're seeing signs of what was predicted for September already with the recent 7.1 and 8.1 quake down in Mexico. Just before that, right in our watch area. Important things to realize is this has been our watch area now for the last month and a half. The deep earthquake activity, and we'd had up to 6 of these bad boys. There's only 3 on the Fiji side, and there's 2 on the Indonesia side. And in time, we're going to see this line of activity kick off here too. There's a report in the newsletter about the supervolcano here in Italy. I expect to see another one following, maybe in a couple of months, about the one in Germany. So with the activity now increasing along magma plume arm number 1 here, that trickles over into magma plume arm number 3. So this is a minimal activity at the moment. But as we're moving through the uptick period, you're going to see this increase until we see the activity coming along in this area along the mid-Atlantic ridge. That's going to happen in the month of November, near the peak of the uptick period. So this has been our watch area. We've been identifying the new volcanic eruptions, events that have been taking place right in this area. We know that the magma plume terminal end is right in this area. It's being tested by these deep earthquake events. That's why this has been the watch area.
Please keep in mind as you watch this, it does not matter what you believe that they are, aliens, gods, demons, the fact is they exist. Please watch us at the end of this video. We will round up all of the information into a final conclusion.
The Book of Enoch explains this reality of interdimensional romantic relationships that took place on the earth between angels and mankind. The Book of Enoch explicitly states that the offspring of angels and humankind, aka the Nephilim, aka the giants of old, would be the evil spirits that roam the earth upon death. And there's reason to believe that such unions are still taking place, even if the gene pool doesn't necessarily result in people becoming giants.
For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12.
Number 5. The Book of Enoch, as well as the first book of the known Bible, Genesis, speaks about fallen angels impregnating human women on the earth, taking wives from the daughters of men. These fetuses in the wombs of these mothers contain genetic mutations that were very much different from most people, resulting in the abnormally tall people that we refer to as giants. Through excavation and archaeological research, the existence of giants has been proven to many skeptics. There are skeletons, as well as paintings of giants on the walls of ancient structures and cultures all over the world. Though giants aren't necessarily being born on a regular basis anymore, there is still reason to believe that fallen angels are still having children on the earth. Even if the offspring doesn't grow up to be giants, it has been proven that there are different genetic mutations in humans that lets us know that there was a foreign DNA introduced into man's bloodline from some other unknown outer world species. If you look at certain humanoid creatures that have existed, you'll see that they look very different from the original African human that has proven to be the common ancestor of all human species on Earth. It makes you question the existence of other races. People claim that giants and sorcery never existed, but there is archaeological evidence that proves that the existence of giants and ancient sorcery would have been necessary for the building of such magnificent, enormous buildings.
Hey guys, this is the world famous Kailasa temple at Ellora, and let's look objectively into who could have built this amazing structure. By the end of this video, I hope you will agree with me that our history is completely wrong and that this temple was built by a very advanced civilization. What's so special about this temple? This temple was not constructed by adding stone blocks, but an entire mountain was carved to create this temple. This is the only temple in the whole world where a mountain was cut out from the top to create a structure. To see why this rock cutting technique is so different, let's take a look at this pillar that's over 100 feet tall. Notice how small human beings look when compared to this pillar. Normally, to create such a huge pillar, it would take years of work carving accurately on a huge rock. But this pillar was carved by scooping out all the pieces of mountain around it. You can imagine the amount of rock which has been removed to create this pillar. Historians and archaeologists are confused because of the sheer amount of rock that was removed in this temple. Archaeologists confirm that over 400,000 tons of rock had to be scooped out, which would have taken not years, but centuries of human labor. Historians have no record of such a monstrous task, and they think that this temple was built in less than 18 years. Let's do a simple math and see if historians could be right. I'm going to assume that people worked every day for 18 years and for 12 hours straight with no breaks at all. I'm going to ignore rainy days, festivals, wartime, and assume that people work like robots ceaselessly. I'm also going to ignore the time taken to create intricate carvings and complex engineering design and planning, and just focus on the removal of rock. If 400,000 tons of rock were removed in 18 years, 22,000 tons of rock had to be removed every year. This means that 60 tons of rock was removed every day, which gives us 5 tons of rock removed every hour. I think we can all agree that it's not even possible today to remove 5 tons of rock from a mountain every hour, not even with the so-called advanced machines we have. So if it's not humanly possible, was it done by humans at all? Was this created with the help of extraterrestrial intelligence?
It is said in the book of Enoch that angels taught mankind enchantments, the use of metals of the earth, technological advancements, and many more things. The bricks used for many ancient structures all around the world are enormous, and their size alone makes them impossible to be moved by the most advanced of modern technology today. Many atheists attribute the creation of the magnificent ancient structures to extraterrestrials from other worlds, aliens.
It took the Earth thousands of years to reach a population of 1 billion people. Then in the past 100 years, the population skyrocketed, reaching past 7 billion people. 4 billion of that population is attributed to the Asian race. To top it off, technology seems to have skyrocketed over the past 100 years to a place that wasn't known by mainstream society in ancient times. I'm going to read a removed biblical text account of what took place during the birth of Noah and the implied physical description of the fallen angels. The Book of Enoch, fragment of the Book of Noah, chapter 106. Quote, "And after some days, my son Methuselah took a wife for his son Lamech, and she became pregnant by him, and bore a son. And his body was white as snow, and red as the blooming of a rose, and the hair of his head and his long locks were white as wool, and his eyes were beautiful. And when he opened his eyes, he lighted up the whole house like the sun. And the whole house was very bright. And thereupon he arose in the hands of the midwife, opened his mouth, and conversed with Yah of righteousness. And his father Lamech was afraid of him, and fled, and came to his father Methuselah. And he said unto him, I have begotten a strange son, diverse from and unlike man, and resembling the sons of God of heaven. And his nature is different, and he is not like us. And his eyes are as the rays of the sun, and his countenance is glorious. And it seems to me that he is not sprung from me, but from the angels. And I fear that in his days a wonder may be wrought upon the earth. And now, my father, I am here to petition thee, and implore thee that thou mayest go to Enoch, our father, and learn from him the truth, for his dwelling place is among the angels. And when Methuselah heard the words of his son, he came to me to the ends of the earth. For he had heard that I was there, and he cried aloud. And I heard his voice, and I came to him. And I said unto him, Behold, here I am, my son. Wherefore hast thou come to me? And he answered and said, Because of a great anxiety have I come unto thee, and because of a disturbing vision have I approached. And now, my father, hear me. Unto Lamech my son, there hath been born a son, the like of whom there is none. And his nature is not like man's nature. And the color of his body is whiter than snow, and redder than the bloom of a rose. And the hair of his head is whiter than white wool, and his eyes are like the rays of the sun. And he opened his eyes, and thereupon lighted up the whole house. And he arose in the hands of the midwife, and opened his mouth, and blessed the God of heaven. And his father Lamech became afraid, and fled to me, and did not believe that he was sprung from him, but that he was in the likeness of the angels of heaven. And behold, I have come unto thee, that thou mayest make known to me the truth. But what I find intriguing about the description of Noah, which was basically an albino, was that it was said that he looked like the Watchers and the Nephilim. But I also find it intriguing that these same characteristics are still seen today. White skin, bright hair, bright eyes. I wonder where these characteristics come from.
The evidence is there. The physical anthropologists at UCLA said a Miocene or Pliocene anthropoid primate evolved into a hominid, Homo erectus, which in turn had evolved from simpler primates over millions of years. My anthropology teachers said Homo sapiens THÇRS gradually evolved from Homo erectus. Clark, D.W., 1959, History of the Primates: 178. The sociocultural anthropologists said we evolved with technology we ourselves developed. We proliferated, they thought, as we planted and bred cereals from local grains, tamed indigenous wild sheep, goats, cattle, donkeys and horses, invented tools and machines, developed medicine, constructed irrigation and transportation systems, built cities and developed ever more effective mathematics, astronomy, chemistry, metallurgy, architecture, and engineering. Modern information proves the anthropologists wrong about our physical evolution. We didn't evolve incrementally from simpler primates on Earth. We've found no gradually intermediate skeletons of primates that link modern humans from Tarsier-like ancestors from which 20th century anthropologists thought we evolved. Several advanced hominoids coexisted with Erectus. Erectus and its contemporaries may have been survivors of astronomically caused extinction events during a human settlement on Earth long before 400,000 years ago, when the scientist Inki and crews of 12 foot tall Homo sapiens colonized Earth from Nibiru. Or, as Plea asserts, Erectus and all their hominoids on Earth may have been placed on Earth by terraformers, and these hominoids, some of whose genes we carry, may still roam the hinterlands of our civilization as their Sasquatch, or modern Neanderthal. Reject the view that we're entirely indigenous and evolved only from simpler forms native to this planet. Reject also anthropologists' old view that the technologies we invented caused our social evolution. Accept instead their overwhelming evidence that we developed socially when the ETs from Nibiru and perhaps other ETS or advanced beings, like the Capensis coneheads like Akhenaten, gave us advanced technologies. 60s anthropologists have noted mysterious uplevelings of civilizations every 3,600 years or so when Nibiru neared Earth. Improvements. Ancient inhabitants of Iraq, then called Sumer, wrote that the Nibiran gods gave them. Anthropologists of the 60s believed these gods imaginary. My chairman at UCLA said, technological innovations Sumerians themselves developed explained social evolution. Their innovations, he said, allowed more population growth, sedentariness, material goods, specialization and leisure, all of which caused social evolution. Neither he nor I ever considered the gods as real, let alone the source of cultural evolution. Sumerians wrote that the gods gave them the genes, inventions, crops and livestock that let them increase their numbers and master the environment. In the thrall of evolutionary anti-creationism, we dismissed what Mesopotamians, Egyptians, Indians, Norse, Chinese, Tibetan, Central, South and North American Indians said about gods who rode celestial chariots, threw thunderbolts and periodically boosted our civilizations with crops, herds, devices, laws and knowledge. Goldschmidt, W. 1959, Man's Way, 110-117, sociologist C. W. Mills showed how power elites control Earth and collaborate to perpetuate competition and war. These elites descended from the bloodline of Enki, whom Sumerians said was a god, albeit a flesh and blood god. 300,000 years ago, Enki engineered the Nibiran's genome, adding a bit of copper, clay and a few genes with those of Neanderthal or Erectus to breed gold-mining slaves adapted to Earth. 13,000 years ago, Enki fathered Zeusudra, Noah in their Bible, ancestor of the elite that to this day rule Earth. The elite still employ a master-slave, god-worshipper code with them in master status, and we enslave, albeit economic slave status, to run humanity. Zeusudra's descendants, today's elite, passed their mandate to dictate from Sumer through Egypt to Israel through David and the Messiahs, fostered by the Essene communities in Canaan. Jesus was an Essene, as was his wife, Mary Magdalene, information the Catholic Church suppressed. Catholics instead perpetuated slave code fear and subservience. They hid the truth of our hybridization and persecuted and brutalized the human-centered strain of the bloodline. If you're referring to God as a being sitting in the clouds. Right. He doesn't exist. God is the force that governs matter beneath a molecular level. Call it consciousness, dark energy, whatever. It doesn't matter. This force exists. If you're referring to who created us as a species, you may want to look into the Annunaki. That literally translates to those who from the heavens came. They were ancient Sumerian gods and they came to Earth over 250,000 years ago to mine monoatomic gold for their atmosphere. They created us as a slave race, to mine gold for them. It is one reason it has always been so precious. Truth is, gold is abundant everywhere in the cosmos. It is said if you swallow a ball of monoatomic gold, philosopher's stone, it acts as a superconductor for your body. Meet modem, and you can download amazing information from the source, consciousness, God.
If you believe the media hype, then the Svalbard Global Seed Vault is preparation for doomsday. Inside here, on the edge of the world, is a giant freezer that keeps plant seeds, storing them frozen at -18°C, safe from any disaster. The vault is earthquake resistant. It is high up a mountain in case of sea level rise, and deep in that mountain, 150 meters, in case of asteroid strike.
So when I was a soldier, I saw a list of what they call terror organizations. Now it's huge. Essentially, all you have to do is disagree with the government. Even Christians are now wrapped in it. So welcome, Occupy Wall Street. You just joined the majority of America and becoming terrorists.
But here's the kicker. I was just talking with a friend of mine, former Special Forces. For those of you that don't know, I was a member of Army Psychological Warfare for a period of about 5 years in the Army Reserve, and I served a tour in Afghanistan. As such, it was a privilege to do so because I got to work with the best of the best. And I didn't have to go through a whole lot of training in order to do it, but I got to work with Special Forces, with Navy SEALs, with Army Rangers, with Air Force parajumpers, and you just go down the list.
FBI, OGA, CIA, got to work with all of them at some point. So this is what my buddy tells me. Says an acquaintance of his at Fort Lewis, Washington, well, there's been a lot of talk amongst these Special Forces teams. A lot of talk. And it's been about Osama bin Laden and his killing. Now, if you're like me, you know that Osama bin Laden has already been dead and nobody killed him because he wasn't alive to kill in the first place. You also know that dumping his body in the ocean was not in proper accordance with Muslim law or tradition. And the story the federal government told us changed 4 times. So what actually went down? Why is this big lie being told? And the thing that my friend is telling me, and it's hearsay, but it's a good source, he's telling me that, they're all realizing this giant lie, this has some play. There's a reason they told this giant lie. Since it was a giant lie, they're just reaching out there trying to figure out why. And what I really like to hear is this. These special operators are very, very smart. You don't even get considered to go in unless you have basically an intelligence score of about 90%. And when I say 90%, I mean that means 1 in 10 people on the planet generally might be smarter than you.
Outside of that, you're smarter than 9 out of 10. That's what it takes just to be considered. So these very smart people are reaching out and trying to find answers, and because they're trying to find answers based on a big lie, there are none. So, guess
which direction they've all started to go. They all started looking back to the beginning of this whole war on terror, the war in Afghanistan, the war in Iraq, the war in Yemen, the war in Libya, the now operators in Uganda at the foothills of Ethiopia. They want to know why, but where did it all start?
It all started on 9/11, and any smart person, especially somebody that's smarter than 90% of the people around them, can look back now on the evidence, because Niels Harrit of Copenhagen University has a peer-reviewed paper, scientific fact, that nanothermate that's only made by 2 companies in the United States was found in every single sample of the dust in the buildings.
Architects and engineers for 9/11 truth just keeps getting bigger and has mathematical, scientific fact that the entire story is a lie. So these very smart people are starting to look back that direction and realize
it was a big lie.
And I brought up the FEMA camps and Occupy Wall Street for a reason, because there is concern that the federal government's going to come out and try to round you up at some point if you disagree. Lock you in a camp and do this the same way Hitler and Stalin, and this has been done over and over and over again. It would just be history repeating itself. Special Forces trains guerrillas and insurgents. And if they decide that the federal government's gone rogue, they're going to be all over this country training you and I how to fight back and restore our Constitution, I suppose, because obviously it's been gutted.
No big surprise. It seems to be working.
And the federal government's scared. They're trying to turn Americans against Americans in order to protect themselves and I suppose bring about this whole New World Order. But the whole thing seems to be falling apart at the seams.
It's the only place I wouldn't want to be is near a big city full of gangsters. Wouldn't want to be there.
I don't know what's going to come of all of this, but I can tell you right now that when I'm hearing legitimate stories about, some of the most elite operators raising some very, very big and important questions about our own government and the validity of the information it's providing and what they're really doing.
The federal government has a major problem when that starts to happen.
You're going to start to witness the shit hitting the fan.
Pulled to the side road, which was a new cut gravel dirt road in front of a business, a
builder supply business, actually top-notch builder supply in Madison, Georgia. To my right, this was previously was a soybean field, and this little new cut road divided this field. And the right side of the road was filled with, which I thought was portable toilets. I never looked at them that close. Same in color, maybe black, but which was an odd color. And I was sitting there going over my notes, and a van pulled alongside of me that turned out to be the property owner. And he greeted me, and he was by himself, and so we had a good little dialogue there, and I asked him about the field of black boxes. What were they? Because I'd never seen anything like that. And his statement was that if he told me,
I would be one of few people in Madison, Georgia that knew about them. And he says they're
disposable coffins,
I believe he told me. And he says
there's 100 at that time. He said there was 125,000 there, and they were stacked. He told me 15 high. I asked him who owned them, and he stated that
the CDC owned them, and that they were leasing his land for storage.
And he said his brother worked with the CDC in Atlanta and had been asked by the CDC to do a 3-year extension to place
temporary morgues all across the nation.
Are you serious? Are you serious? CNN, what are you doing?
I'd like to say something about the current climate of repression and fear. Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. That's from the First Amendment to the Constitution.
Sure, your opinion will not go unnoticed.
Simpsons, you're under arrest for the violation of the Government Knows Best Act. Good day. I don't care. Ah!
Well, where do you think we are? Can't believe they put us in jail. It's not a jail. It's a re-education center.
Let's see, after they blindfolded us, it was left, right, left, then a 3-hour plane ride.
Well, we're not the only ones to be unjustly imprisoned. Check out all the left-wing celebrities.
Crazy cousin, Bill O'Reilly.
Lisa, that's not funny. You believe in the Bill of Rights.
I don't know whether it's the lack of sleep, the sodium pentothal, or that it's the only cartoon I've seen in 2 months. But this is what I believe in now.
You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in.
They just took some people off the boat, and they took them to Tidwell Road, and the buses were taking them from the boat to the Tidwell Road Walmart Supercenter right there in Jersey Village, and there's other ones that are being used too. So there you have it. there's your
temporary FEMA camp.
National Weather Service says that parts of Texas might be uninhabitable for weeks, even potentially months after the hurricane. Are you prepared? Is FEMA prepared to be there for months on end?
This event is real that they caused, and there's real people suffering, and you're not looking and you're not seeing that part.
So let's go take a look at what they did to this neighborhood Walmart. And the way it's set up too is perfect. Look at
They got a security. Why would you have a security camera right here? Why is this needed? What? This obviously looks like some sort of an entrance.
Only seeing on the mainstream media, all you're seeing is a bunch of mocking.
FEMA's going to be there for years. This disaster is going to be a landmark event.
We're already pushing forward forces to be on the ground.
So as you see, this is the parking lot. This is where we're going to be busting you in. It's right off the 101.
We're setting up and gearing up for the
next couple years.
Last night I dreamt about how things were.
Not here yet of every enemy of the state.
And then I woke up here.
I think there are 2 Donald Trumps. There's the public version, and people see that, and I don't know what they see exactly, but it seems to have worked over my lifetime. But it's probably different, I think, than the personal.
Are you watching closely?
Everybody needs to stand up for their rights and demand. What the fuck are they doing up here?
The U.S. Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, is planning to imprison U.S. citizens in concentration camps. This is typically described as following the imposition of martial law in the United States after a major disaster or crisis. In some versions of the theory, only suspected dissidents will be imprisoned. In more extreme versions, large numbers of U.S. citizens will be imprisoned for the purposes of extermination as a new world order is established.
Why was the Book of Enoch removed from the Bible? Well, there are a number of things that are contained in the Book of Enoch that many people don't know about. And another thing most don't know is that the Book of
Enoch was originally part of the early believers. Like, it was part of the original scrolls and text that the early so-called Christian believers, we call them Messianics though, what they believed back in those times. So the ancient Israelites were definitely very familiar with the Book of Enoch. The problem is this though. The Council of Nicaea and the people who were translating the Bible and taking books out and whatnot, who took out the Apocrypha, who took out the Book of Jasher, the Book of Jubilee, the Book of Enoch, and they were even considering taking out the Book of Revelation at one time. And they took out the Book of Enoch because of the fact that it contains a lot of biblical prophecy
concerning the fallen angels, concerning the end times, and the judgment that's going to fall on the wicked during the end times.
But also because of the fact that the Book of Enoch details certain things that was going on during the days of Noah, before the flood, and things that would also be going on in the end times. You know, things such as
genetic splicing and gene manipulation, DNA changing, and basically they were taking the blood and they were mixing species that the Most High had created, and they were making chimerical creatures and whatnot, things that were not supposed to exist. You know, things like the dinosaur or the dragon, or a lot of the weird things that you see in a lot of ancient folklore.
You go around the planet and look at all the ancient cultures, and here in Mesoamerica, for instance, you see these weird primate-looking creatures that they have on their walls. And then you go over there to Egypt and you see the Egyptian gods with faces of a jackal and the body of a man, and or the face of a cat and all this wicked stuff. You go over there to Hindu culture and you see the face of an elephant and 2 faces, 4 arms, Kali, the goddess with 4 arms. Then you go over there to China and you see all these gods look kind of like pigs, honestly. They got like these really, really long, floppy, flabby ears, and they just look really, really wicked and creepy. Like something that
wasn't originally supposed to be here. It's like,
where does all this folklore of these different beings come from?
I'll tell you exactly where it comes from. It comes from the fact that, like I said, in ancient times, the angels did a lot of genetic splicing and everything.
And the Most High had to kill off everything that existed during that time, save for Noah and his family, because of the stuff that the fact that there was a lot of wickedness and the fact that they were mixing these gene pools. You take a spider and you mix it with something like a crocodile, and you get like some freak of nature that wasn't supposed to exist. You know, its thought patterns are messed up.
It's a hybrid creature, and it doesn't know what to feel or how to think. And so it's responding and acting like it's crazy. That's because
it wasn't supposed to be here in the first place.
So there's a scripture in the Book of Enoch. I don't remember exactly where it is, but you can look it up yourself. But it basically talks about how all the Nephilim seeds and all of the things that the fallen angels created by genetic splicing and whatnot, that upon death,
their spirits will roam the earth. That's what it says in the Book of Enoch.
Those are all the demonoid hybrid spirits that people run into from time to time.
That's what those are. That's where demons come from. It comes from the fact that a higher intelligence, what some would call
aliens,
but what I personally refer to as
fallen angels,
because of what the Bible and other external biblical text that was removed from the Bible have revealed to me.
Matter of fact, I believe it's Jubilee chapter 10, but it talks about how after the flood, that the demon spirits that were once on the earth that were killed by the flood, they were attacking Noah's family and appearing to them and scaring them and whatnot. And so Noah, he prayed to the Most High and he pleaded with him that he would send all the demon spirits to hell. And then Satan came forth and said, hold up, y'all, listen, okay? Now, you told me that I would have this amount of time on the earth and that I would be able to do my bidding here on the planet and whatnot. And so, and I'm just paraphrasing, but he basically said,
I'm going to need at least 1/10 of these evil spirits that are on the earth right now,
so that I can fulfill what I was called to do
in the earth, in which that is to bring punishment
on those who disobey your law.
And so the Most High allowed a tenth of the evil spirits that were created during the time of Noah to exist on earth,
while sending the other 9/10 to the lake of fire.
So you look at all the evil that's going on in the world today, you look at all the evil that we have seen in other cultures and other religions, and the demon spirits that every single religion on the face of this planet seems to have an account of. And you can see a common theme that
these spirits came from somewhere. And it's really intriguing to know that in the book of Jubilee chapter 10, Satan basically pleaded with the Most High to leave a tenth of those spirits here on the earth so that they could help Satan do his bidding.
And that's what we see going on in the world today with all the wickedness that is spread about.
I'm sure after seeing all of this you're probably wondering where you're supposed to stand. How do you react to this? Who are you? Please continue to watch as we will bring it all home, so to speak, as promised.
Enoch chapter 1. The words of the blessing of Enoch, wherewith he blessed the elect and righteous, who will be living in the day of tribulation, when all the wicked and godless are to be removed. And he took up his parable and said, Enoch, a righteous man, whose eyes were opened by God, saw the vision of the Holy One in the heavens, which the angels showed me, and from them I heard everything, and from them I understood as I saw, but not for this generation, but for a remote one which is for to come.
Here we read in the opening chapter of Enoch that Enoch's writings would be a blessing to the elect and righteous, living in the day of tribulation, when all the wicked and godless are to be removed from the world. Enoch says that it wouldn't be his generation.
It would be a remote one, which is to come.
Because the house and nation of Israel exist, reborn today, fulfilling Jesus' Matthew 24 prophecy, we know that this
is that final generation. But wait a minute, very few people have read or even know about Enoch's writings. So in order for Enoch 1, verse 1 to come to pass, there has to be a huge shift of ideas concerning the canon of Scripture.
Notice the time Enoch pointed out was the tribulation period. Already, due to the amount of scrolls of the Book of Enoch found at the Dead Sea Qumran, more and more churches are reading out of the text, such as Perry Stone and Chuck Meisler.
Yet still they don't believe that it is Scripture, or even that it was written by Enoch himself, even though they read out of it.
Yet Enoch himself in chapter 1 points at a time known as the tribulation period, in which the church will
universally read and accept the words of Enoch. Enoch himself claims that his words would be a blessing to the elect and righteous during the tribulation period.
Now, let's start here, in this day and age. And let's look at the size of the world population. And let's look at the world population as a great big tree with many branches. And put it horizontal, so we've got the tree, okay, that comes down to one big stem with all its different branches on it, a great big tree with all the branches going out, which is all the people and the bloodlines. It all comes from one, you see. And it all goes back to the one stem. So there's the stem from, let's say, from there, and the tree goes out. You got the picture. Now let's stop there for a second and go back before the flood, okay, and we see another great tree on the other side with all the branches. So you've got two
trees like that with all different bloodlines connected. It all comes down to one bloodline and is connected on both sides of the flood. Are you with me?
So what we have is two great trees, like horizontal, connecting with each other, with the great flood down the middle of them.
With that one bloodline going through.
You see where I am?
The flood's in the middle. Now, you see where I'm going with this, don't you guys? Yeah, that's right. I'm tracing our bloodline and our true heritage all the way back to the flood.
And what do we find? We find our ancestors, your true bloodline, and your true bloodline is, yes, Noah. Noah and all that bloodline.
Okay, that's your heritage. We are children, all of us. We are children of Noah. Okay? Now, Noah
was the only pure bloodline left from God's standpoint. The only true pure bloodline left. The only one, no others. That's why the tree got boiled down to one bloodline. After the flood, that leads to you. You.
You, me, all of us are children of Enoch. Enoch, Methuselah, Noah, all that bloodline.
Never forget that. Never ever forget that. Never forget who you are.
Quantum theory proves consciousness moves to another universe after death. A book titled Biocentrism: How Life and Consciousness Are the Keys to Understanding the Nature of Their Universe has stirred up the internet, because it contained a notion that life does not end when the body dies, and it can last forever. The author of this publication, scientist Dr. Robert Lanza, who was voted the third most important scientist alive by the NY Times, has no doubts that this is possible. Biocentrism teaches that life and consciousness are fundamental to the universe. It is consciousness that creates the material universe, not the other way around. Lanza points to the structure of the universe itself, and that the laws, forces, and constants of the universe appear to be fine-tuned for life, implying intelligence existed prior to matter. He also claims that space and time are not objects or things, but rather tools of our animal understanding. Lanza says that we carry space and time around with us like turtles with shells, meaning that when the shell comes off, space and time, we still exist. The theory implies that death of consciousness simply does not exist. It only exists as a thought because people identify themselves with their body. They believe that the body is going to perish, sooner or later, thinking their consciousness will disappear too. If the body generates consciousness, then consciousness dies when the body dies. But if the body receives consciousness in the same way that a cable box receives satellite signals, then of course consciousness does not end at their death of the physical vehicle. In fact, consciousness exists outside of constraints of time and space. It is able to be anywhere, in the human body and outside of it. In other words, it is non-local in the same sense that quantum objects are non-local. Lanza also believes that multiple universes can exist simultaneously. In one universe, the body can be dead, and in another it continues to exist, absorbing consciousness which migrated into this universe. This means that a dead person while traveling through the same tunnel ends up not in hell or in heaven, but in a similar world he or she once inhabited, but this time alive. And we have created a video on this subject in the past, as to explain the nature of our quantum reality. We will put a link to it in the description, as we believe it's one video everyone should see at least once. It's almost like a cosmic Russian doll afterlife effect. Multiple worlds. This hope-instilling, but extremely controversial theory by Lanza has many unwitting supporters, not just mere mortals who want to live forever, but also some well-known scientists. These are the physicists and astrophysicists who tend to agree with existence of parallel worlds and who suggest the possibility of multiple universes. Multiverse, multi-universe, is a so-called scientific concept, which they defend. They believe that no physical laws exist which would prohibit the existence of parallel worlds. The first one was a science fiction writer H.G. Wells, who proclaimed in 1895 in his story The Door in the Wall. And after 62 years, this idea was developed by Dr. Hugh Everett in his graduate thesis at the Princeton University. It basically posits that at any given moment the universe divides into countless similar instances. And there, next moment, these newborn universes split in a similar fashion. In some of these worlds, you may be present, reading this article in one universe, or watching TV in another. The triggering factor for these multiplying worlds is our actions, explained Everett. If we make some choices, instantly one universe splits into two with different versions of outcomes. In the 1980s, Andre Lind, scientist from the Lebowitz Institute of Physics, developed the theory of multiple universes. He is now a professor at Stanford University. Lind explained, space consists of many inflating spheres, which give rise to similar spheres, and those, in turn, produce spheres in even greater numbers, and so on to infinity. In the universe, they are spaced apart. They are not aware of each other's existence, but they represent parts of the same physical universe. The fact that our universe is not alone is supported by data received from the Planck Space Telescope. Using the data, scientists have created the most accurate map of the microwave background, their so-called cosmic relic background radiation, which has remained since the inception of our universe. They also found that the universe has a lot of dark recesses represented by some holes and extensive gaps. Theoretical physicist Laura Mersini Houghton from the North Carolina University with her colleagues argue the anomalies of the microwave background exist due to the fact that our universe is influenced by other universes existing nearby, and holes and gaps are a direct result of attacks on us by neighboring universes. 3. Soul. So, there is abundance of places or other universes where our soul could migrate after death, according to the theory of neo-biocentrism. But does the soul exist? Is there any scientific theory of consciousness that could accommodate such a claim? According to Drive, Stuart Hameroff, a near-death experience happens when the quantum information that inhabits the nervous system leaves the body and dissipates into the universe. Contrary to materialistic accounts of consciousness, Dr. Hameroff offers an alternative explanation of consciousness that can perhaps appeal to both the rational scientific mind and personal intuitions. Consciousness resides, according to Stewart and British physicist Sir Roger Penrose, in the microtubules of the brain cells, which are the primary sites of quantum processing. Upon death, this information is released from your body, meaning that your consciousness goes with it. They have argued that our experience of consciousness is the result of quantum gravity effects in these microtubules, a theory which they dubbed orchestrated objective reduction, or core consciousness, or at least proto-consciousness, is theorized by them to be a fundamental property of the universe, present even at their first moment of the universe during the Big Bang. In one such scheme, proto-conscious experience is a basic property of physical reality accessible to a quantum process associated with brain activity. Our souls are in fact constructed from the very fabric of the universe, and may have existed since the beginning of time. Our brains are just receivers and amplifiers for the proto-consciousness that is intrinsic to the fabric of space-time. So is there really a part of your consciousness that is non-material and will live on after the death of your physical body? Dr. Hameroff told the Science Channel's Through the Wormhole documentary, let's say the heart stops beating, the blood stops flowing, the microtubules lose their quantum state. The quantum information within their microtubules is not destroyed, it can't be destroyed, it just distributes and dissipates to the universe at large. Robert Lanza would add here that not only does it exist in their universe, it exists perhaps in another universe. If the patient is resuscitated, revived, this quantum information can go back into the microtubules and the patient says I had a near-death experience, he adds, if they're not revived, and the patient dies. It's possible that this quantum information can exist outside the body, perhaps indefinitely, as a soul. This account of quantum consciousness explains things like near-death experiences, astral projection, out-of-body experiences, and even reincarnation without needing to appeal to religious ideology. The energy of your consciousness potentially gets recycled back into a different body at some point, and in the meantime it exists outside of the physical body on some other level of reality, and possibly in another universe. We hope that you have all enjoyed this special presentation and hopefully you can take something away from its viewing. we felt it was important to start creating a mini-part series detailing all of the truth our team has uncovered. No matter how crazy it may seem, we are remaining anonymous as to protect ourselves from ridicule from the uneducated. Expect a part 2 of this series within the next week, which will outline more of the aspects that make up what is Agenda 21, and we will discuss why people are being led to believe their coming cataclysm is a psyop. We are not meaningless, we are not going away. We are anonymous. We are legion. We can forgive. We do not forget. You should have expected us. Brought to you by Anonymous Truthsec. Join us as we discuss some of the ways this world is broken. Join us as we invite the truth into our lives. Lives which until now have been blind. Join us as we bring you the truth from the shadows. We are not meaningless. We are not going away. We are anonymous. We are legion. We can forgive. We do not forget. You should have expected us.